Well, hello everybody. I got my email back. No phone call, not this time. The Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, even though it's spelt lieutenant, but they use our military term lieutenant. Made sure to state that they will not be commenting on Daniel Smith. They won't answer any questions to me. It won't give me any audience, none whatsoever. I am not of the caliber. They are the crown. They are holier than thou, and I am just a peon. It's basically the email return I got. No phone call, no nothing. So basically, thanks, but no thanks. Don't contact anyone in our office, not the Lieutenant Governor or their office entirely. Will comment or invite me to speak on anything. I'm not of that caliber. I'm just a man, the Joe Jane peon, not the crown. They really do have a superiority complex. Won't be commenting on any issues, they said. You'll have to watch. So, folks, the crown check and balance of the Canadian Constitution was lost in 1952 officially. Any Canadian who doesn't know this, if you're over the age of 75, I suggest for everybody else, you go to an old folks home or speak to your fellow Canadians. I have one lady right here in Edmonton, Alberta. I should ask her permission to use her name. I'm not gonna. Bonnie is her first name. Been a big supporter for a long time. Bonnie loves to read. We exchange books. She has her Alberta family all the way to her grandmother. That's the whole history of the crown. Knows all about it. Has the letters back and forth to our then UK Governor General and UK Lieutenant Governors, Lieutenant Governors, right here in the province of Alberta. All their communications back and forth. Under Canadian legal system, you as the average peon, Joe Jane Canadian, used to be able to mail your Lieutenant Governor or Governor General of Canada on any federal or provincial issues when you felt that the government wasn't acting appropriately with their power. I know it's not much of a check and balance, folks, but it was a constitutional power where the Lieutenant Governor on provincial matters can drop the hammer against a legislature, any MP, any senator, or as well the Premier themselves. And they have. At least they used to before 1952. But now since 1952, your premiers, your prime ministers that you elect get full power of the crown, meaning when they don't want democracy, they utilize those once out of our reach and hold lieutenant governors and governor generals. They used to be of the UK. Now they're purely Canadian politicians' whim. Maybe Danielle Smith can make Lieutenant Governor Lacani do what she wants, but she'll need to win Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. She'll have to get Justin Trudeau to agree to her Sovereignty Act. Do you think the royal family will allow, with Boris Johnson, the CEO of the Commonwealth, he's the CEO, you can go look it up, look at your Commonwealth Charter, look at who is the CEO, it's Boris Johnson. Do you think him, Queen Elizabeth II, or any of her family members are going to allow Alberta sovereignty from the UK when it's clearly handed over forever and a day since 1867? Will they say, go ahead, take away our money, take away everything that we have over Canada because it's the right thing to do? Do you think they're going to give credence to Danielle Smith's Sovereignty Act? Do you think they're going to allow that? The answer is no. And the Governor General under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will move swiftly as they all do every time you try to sue through Superior Court. You file a lawsuit against Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, but she's forbidden from answering. Justin Trudeau is the real Queen of Canada. Not figuratively, absolutely. And it's done because he holds the majesty through Governor General and absolutely all Lieutenant Governors of the provinces and regional commissioners. How? They all must swear an oath and are appointed by the Governor General. Who's the Governor General appointed and sworn by, and to who? Well, that's whomever you've elected Prime Minister. Are you figuring it out yet, folks? Absolute 100% undemocratic, full-on dictatorial crown power held by largely the Prime Minister, and then in a smaller share, the premiers. Lieutenant governors of any province and the commissioners of the territories can implement constitutionalism for the provinces any day of the week, should a premier ask for it. That is the only constitutional act a premier can do that the Prime Minister can't stop. Why? Because it's written in Section 58, clearly identified since 1867. And it's still there post-1982, as well as all the other 11 amendments. It hasn't been removed. Real federalism waits for you at some day. It's been 150 years. Not one premier has ever brought that forward. They bring all kinds of cockamamie horseshit forward, but not real provincial constitutionalism. As laid out, all the powers of it in Section 92, 92AB, 93, all the way up to 95. But the bulk, the bread and butter, the power of you, the people, is right there in 92. Your property rights, your water rights, your resource rights, education, healthcare. If you haven't looked at healthcare as your greatest single expense in this country, I don't know what else to tell you. But that's what I got. I am not of caliber. I'm not sworn to the crown. I will not be given an audience with the Lieutenant Governor. She will not answer any questions. As anyone over the age of 75 who used to participate in the UK letter writing to the Real Majesty, they could and would answer you, and most certainly could and would overstep a premier, a prime minister, a legislature, or a parliament if they chose your side, the citizen. It was a check and balance. Now it's an autocratic power of your premiers and your prime minister, more for the prime minister, of course. So that's where we're at, folks. We will not get an answer, but I can promise you this: when Danielle Smith goes to release her Sovereignty Act, there will be no stamp. Mark my words. Just look at the history of Canada. Every time any lieutenant governor has ever shot down any premier's legislation, regardless of it being passed in majority. Best example of this is ATB in the province of Alberta. Look at that in the 50s. Look at that. That was done after losing twice to two lieutenant governors, more than a decade of battle back and forth. You'll also find your resources battled back and forth. Only one premier ever challenged the crown. Only one in the province of Alberta. Ralph Klein tried to, but he lost. We can go through all of it. I have all the examples. But there it is. There's the crown power bestowed forever and a day on premier and premiers. They will never release the power back to you, the people, or for the first time ever give you constitutionalism. They certainly will not pass Danielle Smith's Sovereignty Act, and she knows it. Now we're going to get on to China. I have massive from President Xi Jinping, released and endorsed by 1.4 billion Chinese is stated publicly on social media. Exactly what I told all of you is exactly what Ambassador Zhang Jun, a man I've dealt with directly, one Canadian who has, and he is adamant in the name of President Xi that Canada will be forcibly, and I repeat, forcibly and absolutely stopped in any attempt to violate Chinese sovereignty over Taiwan. You say you do it, you'll regret it, Canadians. We will forcibly end you. I want to tell you guys all something. Real numbers, lying liberals and lying conservatives. I have all the data from the greatest minds in the world. I have the paper released, endorsed by the University of Oxford. So this isn't cockamamie, it's not BS. It's absolutely the truth. And anyone trying to tell you anything otherwise is just a bull-faced liar. Breaking news here. So, Canada's trade relationship with China since Stephen Harper 2008. And anyone who doesn't want to believe this stuff or believe this about Harper and of course Trudeau, so whichever aisle you fly in, I'm about ready to break your bubble now, backed up by Oxford University. Oxford, that's UK. So it's kind of hard for anyone to say, oh, it's not true, when even the UK's highest institutions say, sorry, it most certainly is true. In 2008, Canada went from a 1% trading relationship with China, meaning 1% of our GDP, to absolutely now 6% of our GDP. And these aren't small things. 16% in imports, and of course the exports much lower. We send a lot of raw goods. China, with Canada, has increased wages. They've tripled since 2008 for their people, have tripled wages since 2008. Canadians, not even close. Nowhere near it, not even comparable. So that's your government, liberals and conservatives. In fact, when we start really aggressively in economics, these are masters, doctorates who wrote a paper that's published 2021, last year entirely, going through it credibly, verified. We import mass amounts of electronics, mass amounts of finished goods, and in fact, when it comes to trying to increase our trade to 50% globally, did you know who we utilize? And I said it in the video earlier. China. Now most of our trade is USA, but we're not going overseas, and we're not in the value and supply chain. China is our global value and supply chain for much of our goods, whether they're intermediary, where it's just a part of a greater component or what have you. We utilize China for that. We utilize China. Do you know that China could cripple us tomorrow in all of our highest institutions? Did you know that for Canada, when we look at our universities and college, did you know that 27% of our enrollment is Chinese citizens? Meaning that if China pulled the pin on that tomorrow, most of our universities and colleges would go tits up. They would have to jack your tuitions probably 5-fold just to remain competitive, meaning we would become an even dumber country than we already are. Did you know that USA versus Canada are not even comparable? That American colleges and universities only have 4% foreign enrollment of all students. They only allow 4% of the world to come and use their universities and colleges, meaning they majority make Americans smart for Americans, not Canadians making foreign students smarter for foreign country interests. Nobody strengthens China more intellectually and manufacturing wise than Canada. This was the deal of Stephen Harper that has only ballooned and grown with Justin Trudeau. 2008 to 2021, you can clearly look at who has made China the strongest. The answer is globally Canada. Canada won UK. You all do. You go to work every day and you make China stronger. Much stronger than you make your own Canadian citizens. Why is that, folks? Why do we do that? Who's making all the money? Oh yeah, liberals and conservatives did. They didn't even allow you ever to vote on it. Can China and their 1.4 billion devastate Canada with a snap of a finger? Of course. Their trade, value, and supply chains are much, much more diversified than Canada's. We only trade with the United States, and we're getting weaker and weaker all the time. Our politicians did this to ourselves. How does UK stack as a trading partner? Well, it depends how you look at it, as they literally have nothing but all financial control over us. That's our great trade. We transfer our financial holdings to UK. That's our great and wonderful third largest trading partner, all in financial trade, meaning we're getting hosed. That's what happens when you give your sovereignty to a new country, another country, a foreign country, and then that country decides when it's making deals over Hong Kong and other things, they use their little sovereign colonies to barter and trade with. And that's what's happened to Canada. Justin Trudeau, and before him Stephen Harper, did the exact same thing as mandated to keep their crowns. Crowns they stole that were made illegal in the world. Crowns that Russia, USA, and China said, not anymore, and it was cemented. What China's talking about today, running Canada down, saying they will beat Canada's ass. That's basically what they said. We will forcibly take Canada down by force. That's clearly the words they use. It's in English and Chinese and Mandarin and many other languages published for everybody in the world, stated specifically to Canada. We will forcibly take you down. Do you think USA is going to do much about it when they don't train or rely on Chinese foreign students to be their largest source of their academic institutions, the financial support for their academic institutions? If China said, we're pulling out all of our students tomorrow, you can kiss all of our institutions goodbye. Would the bailout have to be as large as what the bailouts were with Harper with the banks? Maybe not, but you know what? I don't think $100 billion is something Canadians can stomach right now. Can you imagine an announcement like Joe Biden's $300 billion bailout for student loans for doctors, lawyers, and managers on the backs of tradesmen? Oh, and all public sector now, it's ballooned past $300 billion. Joe Biden doubled down on it, and he said it's going to be likely now like $450+ billion, almost $500 billion in student loan forgiveness for all public sector employees. So if you're a public sector union employee, you're going to get your loans forgiven. Could Canada do the same thing for looks like I gotta go. My daughter's here. Gotta take her for an appointment. That's my video. We'll have to continue this. Not good with China. It's breaking, and I'll finish a part B later tonight. Thanks, guys. Bye now.